Good morning. How are you doing today? Goodness, everyone is getting sick right now. I am doing pretty good, thank you. Hopefully it stays that way. We are heading out in just about a week to go to a wedding in another state, and then I'm gonna go visit my best friend at her house for a week. So hopefully it stays that way. I'm just sorting out my pieces here while we wait for anyone who's going to join today. Absolutely, I'm super excited. She lives in Iowa, and I've actually never been to Iowa, so we'll see how that goes. Definitely different than Southern California, that's for sure. But I'm excited. Hi, Linda. Okay, I think I've got everything sorted out now. And look, I remembered to iron my zipper, so it's at least a little bit straighter today. Yay! I posted the link for the video a little bit earlier. I figured out how I could create the link without actually going live yet. So hopefully that in the future will be the way I can do it and make it a little bit easier. So it's not like giving you guys the link right as I'm going live. Okay, so the first thing I did, and I mentioned this yesterday, I went ahead and put my magnets on these two pieces here. Just because we had already done that before. So your pattern piece actually has a spot where you need to put it put your magnet on. So just mark that out. I just do it on the back side, mark it out, and then put it in the exact same way we did the other piece. Okay, I am going to start with the slip pockets. And I'm going to do the slip pockets a little bit different. I'm not going to do binding across the top, mainly because I don't have a binding that I really like the way it looks with this, and I don't really want to just use the exact same thing as binding. So if you're going to do the binding method, though, you would put wrong sides together so that your right sides are sticking out. You can baste that together if it's easiest for you to do that, and you can put a little tag if you want, and then you would just do binding over the edge and sew that on. What I'm going to do instead is put wrong sides together and basically do the exact same thing we did on the slip pocket on the outside. This is just my preferred method of doing it. But it's not, the other way allows you to have kind of like a pop of contrast if you want, which is just kind of what, if that's what you're looking for, you know. It's also a good way to practice your binding. Okay, so this piece was E2, I think. Yeah, this is the larger of the two where you fold down. Let me see if I have that pattern piece right here. This one, yeah. So this is your pattern piece for your interior lining. So for the back piece, you just want to cut this entire thing, and then you're going to fold on each one of these lines and cut 2 pieces of your lining. Cut 2 of your lining from each line. So, and that's going to create your 2 slip pockets. And they'll go, one goes on each side. I'll show you that in a minute. But so this one here is the larger of the 2. And then this one here is E1, which is the smaller of the 2. So I'm just going to chain stitch that. And I'm not putting a, hold on. I'm not going to put a little label on either of these because I'm actually putting one with my zipper overlay. So I'm just going to leave that one there. But if you wanted your label to go on your slip pocket, you could do it the exact same way we did day 1 where we did that slip pocket on the back. Or if you're doing the binding, just sew it straight across the top and then put the binding over it. Let me stitch these together real quick. Oh, and I switched out my scissors today. I'm on it today. This probably will be a little bit longer of a live. We might even go over that 2-hour mark. I don't know, because I did try to squeeze the entire lining into one day, but I kind of think that it's helpful to do the lining all in one day because it's kind of like all the same thing, if that makes sense. You know, you kind of keep your brain on the lining. All right, so now I'm going to top stitch. I'm just going to press these open real quick. And just roll that seam. This probably would be a little bit easier if I took it over to the iron, but I'm not going to. So. Okay, and then I'm just going to do an 1/8 inch top seam or a top stitching 1/8" seam top stitch. And do the same thing to this one. And if you want to, you can just kind of throw a couple of these alligator clips on, and that will hold your seam in place if you're concerned about it coming undone. All right. All right, so those are finished. Now we're going to take one of our back pieces. This is piece E. And we're going to do our overlay and our zipper pocket. I'm going to try not to be as talkative today so that we can get through this because it is quite a bit. Hopefully, I don't know what I'm saying. I'll be talkative anyways. Got the nervous talks. And I guess I didn't burn that one, so it kind of got a little twisted in my drawer. The zipper pull on before I forget, like I always do. Okay. We have that ready, and then the other pieces you will need are your 2 pocket pieces. These are pieces E4. This is just going to be your pocket once you get everything sewn on. Okay, so on the exterior side or the right side of your lining. And I'm just using waterproof canvas, so this is the pretty side of the canvas. We're going to put our little zipper overlay on. And actually, let's go ahead and make a pocket first. Okay, so let me grab my tape. Get in trouble not putting stuff back where I usually keep it, and then I can't find it. Okay, so if you want, you can use double-sided tape to stick your zipper onto your pocket pieces. If you're worried about it shifting around, it does really help, and it does keep it kind of in the perfect spot. You don't have to necessarily, but I do really like to do it that way. Okay. So with right side up on both of these. So you're going to have your piece E4, your zipper pocket lining. You're going to have that face up, and you're going to have your zipper face up. And I have it with my zipper facing that way, or closing that way, I should say. And I'm just going to run this thin little, this is 1/8 inch Hyperstick from way back. Pop that off. And I'm just going to press my zipper to that. One thing I do like about doing it this way is that you can do both sides at once and then just zip right through it. Pun not intended there. But and then so you can do the other side here as well. And the reason that this is cut into 2 pieces is because we're going to be turning through that piece, so we need to leave it open. So we're not going to cut through the bottom, or we're not going to sew through the bottom of this one. And just line up your sides. Put that down. You line up one side and then press it along that. It should line up perfectly on the other side. And it lines up pretty dang close. I told you I'm not the biggest fan of cutting precisely whenever I do. So sometimes my pieces are a little wonky, but that's what seam allowances are for. All right, so we're just gonna baste these on with just like a 1/8 stitch. So this is just to hold it together until we get it sewn onto our main piece here. All right, and what I'm actually going to do is I left this long for a reason. I'm going to come past it. I'm going to lower my needle. I'm going to sew over it. The tension is a little too tight. And then I'm going to open this up. Get rid of these strings. open this up so I'm not sewing on this piece here. And then I'm going to fold this piece under like that. So that way I don't have to stop and start anywhere, and I've closed that zipper closed, so I don't have to worry about my pull coming off of that end anyways. All right, so now you can see we have our zipper attached to our 2 pocket pieces, and this is the back side of our pocket pieces, so that whenever we open our zipper, we have the pretty side on the inside. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do while I'm here is run a line of double-sided tape just over basically where I stitched. You don't want it to go too far in, because then you might see it on your outside piece, and you definitely don't want that. So where I put the double-sided tape before, that isn't totally necessary. You can totally do that without the double-sided tape, but this part here, I really, really like using the tape on, because it's just kind of awkward whenever you're trying to get it in there and lay it flat, and so I like having the double-sided tape on here. All right, let's put that to the side for a second. Now, let me get my ruler. All right, so we are going to come down, I believe it's an inch. Yeah, an inch. And you can mark this if you want, or if you just leave that there. Actually, I'm going to mark my center first. What I really like about having a long ruler like this is you can mark your center. And then line up the center of your ruler. So my ruler here is 8 inches. So this is the center, which is 4 inches. And I can line that up right at my notch and know that this is the center of my bag. Even though this is going to be a little bit longer, I can still center it up really easy. So I am going to kind of crease that just a little bit. And I already have double-sided tape on here. I tried to prep a little bit for today, since I knew it would be just that little bit longer. And I'm just taking the top edge off, only the top edge for right now. And I'm going to line up the crease that I made with my 4-inch mark. Scoot up just a little and lay that down. Now, normally I have this a little closer to me, so I'm going to actually kind of recheck. Okay, so I like that. I think it looks good. Now I'm going to take the bottom piece off. And just kind of let that lay down kind of naturally how it wants to. Okay. Now what we're going to do is stitch around the outside edge. And you're going to do a top stitch of, I use anywhere from 5 to 6, just kind of almost what it lands on whenever I do it, to be honest. And I think I'll start right here in the middle. And I'm going to pull the threads through to the back. So if you're going to do that, make sure you leave your tails long enough and don't back stitch. Just start going. Okay, and around the curves, I hand crank. So I get to about, what is that, maybe like 3/8 to a ½ inch away from the end of this box here. And then I wish I could show you guys a little closer. I don't think this camera does a zoom thingy. I'll just turn the slightest bit. So I was going straight like this, if you'll look back here, and then I turn it just a little bit, lower my presser foot, and then do one stitch. Then I pick it back up, I turn it again, I do a stitch. Pick it up, lay it down. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to line the edge of my zipper facing overlay piece. I'm trying to line that up with the edge of my presser foot so that, you know, within that little probably 1/8 inch stitch, I'm trying to line it up. So it's kind of hard to explain, but hopefully watching helps. I just literally take one stitch at a time until I get around that corner, and I just every single time I do a stitch. And I know that B did a kind of a tutorial on doing kind of like a faux, what do you call it? You all right over there? What am I trying to say? She put like a bunny on a bag and kind of showed how she did kind of the overlays and stuff like that. That's what I'm trying to. There's a word somewhere and someone will think of it and tell me. So again, I'm just going really slow, one stitch at a time, and adjusting after every single stitch until I get back to that straightaway. Leave your tails long so that you can pull them through to the back and tie them off. I don't know if you guys are just quiet today or if I'm not seeing comments, so somebody let me know. I know it's Friday. Everyone's probably tired. Or it's Friday for us. Okay, so we're not going to sew on the inside yet because that's how we're going to attach our zipper. So now what we need to do is just take our scissors and you're going to cut out this middle part. I don't know if these scissors are good enough for this. Just cut a line down the center. And then this is where those duckbill scissors, I think that's technically what they're called, but they're also known as applique scissors in the sewing world. This is where these come in really handy, because we're just going to trim this back to where you cannot see it from the front side. So you probably want to come about 1/4 inch away from the stitches that you just did. And this does not have to be pretty at all. It's all going to get hidden. You just want to get that excess fabric out of the way. Now, when you get down to the end, you want to be really careful that you're not cutting through your overlay here. So I actually stick my finger in there to completely separate it from this waterproof canvas. And then that way I know if I'm on top of my finger, I will not be cutting through that vinyl on the back side. Out of there. Someone said you could go in there. And you're better to take your time with this than to just speed through it, because you definitely don't want to accidentally cut through that vinyl that you just so painstakingly put on there. And I'm going to avoid my little tag there. I don't want that to unravel any. All right, and I'm actually going to, this is a little too close for my liking, just in case, I'm going to trim it a little bit closer. Probably trim this one just a little bit too. Like I said, this does not have to be pretty. You just want to get it off. So now you have this really nice opening for your zipper. Now, it does not matter at this point which one of your E4 panels is in the front or the back. They're the exact same. One will end up getting cut off a little bit because of the length of your zipper. What's important, though, is that you decide which way you want your zipper to open. So I like when my zipper closes this way and opens this way for this particular little pocket. So I'm going to put it in exactly like this with my zipper closing that way. So what I'm going to do is take off the top again first. I'm going to set that down, and I'm not going to worry about the zipper pull or any of the other stuff except for this top line only. I'm not going to worry about whether or not my zipper pull is coming through or there's part of the other one showing. I just want to line this up. Okay, that is just a little bit too low for my liking, so peel that off and reposition. Okay. Now, because of how we sewed the zipper on, this piece right here on the underside, this other side of the zipper, it doesn't want to lay flat. So what I'm going to do, and why I like having that double-sided tape so much, is now I'm going to flip it around so that that side will lay flat and the side that I already attached will be buckled up like that. So now I can peel off this tape here and have a flatter surface to work with. And I am going to flip my tab through just to make sure. Oops. And it looks like I put it a little too low on the other side, so I'll probably reposition that. Come on, tab. This vinyl is a little slippy, so doesn't want to stay up there. All right. Actually, that looks great, I think. This side is a little off. And just keep messing with it until you like the way it looks. It's not permanent until you stitch it, and even then you can pull the stitches out if you need to. Is that better? Nope, it's still a little wonky. Okay, so how I'm going to do the top stitching for this part is I'm going to fold each of these sections, like this one is going to get folded down and the other one is going to get folded up. And this eliminates the need for you to do just the bottom and then pull your stitches through and then do the sides and the top without catching your other pieces of your pocket. And that's something that who did I see do that? Maybe Sonar, maybe is the one I saw do it. But I think that's just such a great tip, and that way you don't have to do so many stops and starts. So now what we're going to do is just kind of flatten that seam out and then pick a place to start. And we're going to top stitch along that inner edge now, that inner box. And I just want to reiterate that the only thing that I'm actually sewing through right now is the zipper and this overlay here. My pockets are pulled out this way, so they're not underneath my needle. That's important. So up to my zipper, and now I'm just going to pull that out of the way. And I am constantly checking to make sure I'm not running over my top or bottom thread tail that I've left, because that'll make it harder to pull it through if you run over it. So I'll try to kind of keep that out of the way. Okay. Nice long tails. Now let me flip it over here. You can see I've just stitched on here. We don't need to worry about the actual pocket lining because we've already stitched it to our zipper. So I think that's a super handy way of doing it. Less stop and starts, which is great when you have a variegated thread that you don't want it to look like it's skipped a few colors. Okay. But if you do it the other way, you're the only one who's going to notice that it skipped a couple colors. So many times whenever friends and family don't notice the error unless you point it out to them. So just don't tell them. I'm the worst about that though. Burn your threads. And like I said, I don't know, the first day, I do like to push down, just make sure that those aren't sharp, because sometimes when you melt it, it's made a type of plastic. So when you melt those down, sometimes it can be a little sharp. So I like to kind of smush them down a bit. All right, so there we go. We have a nice zipper overlay. Not perfectly even right there, but it's okay. Okay, so now what we got to do is close up the sides of our pocket. So what we need to do is, first off, line these up, our pocket edges. I'm going to pull this up out of the way. Line up your pocket flat here, down the way it's going down towards the back end of the bag. And just trim off excess here. And it's what, about 3/4 of an inch? Yeah, about 3/4 of an inch. This just makes it easier to sew up the sides. Okay, so I am going to put this here. Oh, change your stitch length. And now what I like to do is just fold up about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch. No, that's more than 1/4, probably like 3/8. I just eyeball it. I do not measure this part. Of course, the video will be available after we get off. You can watch whenever you need to. Have a good rest of your day. All right, so for this side, the same thing, except for I'm going to start at the bottom, just to make it easier on myself. So I'm going to fold it up and just stitch it down. All right, and so what that is done is when we go to sew this up, once our bag is completed, oh, sorry, it's about to get loud. It's trash day and they're fixing to pick up the trash on our street, so might get a little loud. But what this is going to do is it's going to give you a really nice finished edge here. But see, it folds it over automatically for you, so you can get a nice crisp corner to sew along whenever you're doing your sewing up your lining, pocket lining. Okay, so that's that part. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to clip it up out of the way. Because we need to attach our slip pocket. And we don't want to sew through the pocket that we just made. Okay, so this side is going to get your shorter pocket, I believe. Let me just verify that real quick. E1, okay. I do have pockets. So this is piece E1. So it's the shorter of your two slip pockets that we made. And it's just going to go right below. You're going to line it up. And you can use your pattern piece to line this up as well. I'm just going to line it up on the bottom. And then, where's your pin? If you want this to just be a solid open pocket, you can do that. You can 3 pockets. You can make a single divider in the middle, which is what I'm going to do. But you can divide your pocket in any way that you think is most useful for you. So I'm going to mark the center down here on the bottom. And that's going to help me find where I need to go for my pocket. Make sure whichever side you like your stitching best is facing up. And then line that up. And I am going to draw a line with my chalk marker or pen wheel, whatever this thing is called. Just going to line it up to the top. Here comes the trash can again, or the trash man. So sorry if it's loud. Okay, make sure you put a nice good line on there that you can see. I have a tendency to wipe it off, so I like to go over a couple times just to kind of really make sure I've got it on there. And then I'm going to throw a couple of these alligator clips on here just to kind of hold it in place a little bit. It's not that difficult to keep in place, to be honest, but better safe than sorry. All right, so now we're just going to baste that on, and then we're going to stitch up that center to create 2 separate pockets. So just do this at about 1/8 of an inch. Don't go much further than that because then you're going to possibly see it when you have your bag completed. So you don't want to do that. Hello to everyone who's just joining. I just looked up and saw that there was more than 3 people in here. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. I'll stop and address them. If not, I'm just going to power through. All right, so when I get to this line, I'm going to stop pretty much right on that line. And I'm going to pivot. And you can't really see it, but this line lines up perfectly with the little side of my little presser foot here. That works for me. If you want to go directly down the middle of where your guide is, then do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go forward a couple of stitches, and then I'm going to back stitch, and then I'm going to go all the way up to the top. Okay, and when you get to the top, what I like to do is actually go over the edge of the split pocket. And then I'm going to back stitch one. I'm going to go forward again and back stitch again. And to me, that makes the strongest seam, in my opinion. That is my opinion. You can do it however you want to do it. And then I go forward one stitch. I turn it again. I do that exact same thing. Up one, back one, up one, back one. And then I go back down. And then I'm going to go down, back stitch, and then there. And I just think that that gives a really nice finish, and it's really a strong connection right here. You could even punch a hole here and put a rivet. That's up to you. But I really like the separation here too. It's a clearly defined pocket that is going to be secure in this part up here. Okay. So now we're just going to continue to baste along the bottom just to secure that pocket in place. Okay, now you can let your pocket down because this piece is complete. Now we'll take our bigger pocket. Sorry if I bump you, I gotta get stuff out of my cart. Just do this. Okay, so with this second side, it's going to be kind of the same deal, except if you want to have a magnetic snap, you can. I'm just going to do a slip pocket, but the instructions do tell you can put a, actually I think she uses a cam snap in this one. But you know, if you want to just leave it completely flat or with no connector, you can totally do that. I chose to leave it that way because actually my iPad fits in there. Just kind of shoved it in there, and I'm using it kind of as a sleeve. So I liked it without the connector. All right, so I'm just gonna, again, just add a few clips just to kind of secure it in place. Oh, I forgot to mark my center. We'll have to just do it all together. Oh, I don't want to mark my center on this one. Well, I'll go ahead and mark it. I'm not dividing this pocket though, because like I just got done saying, it's a really good like sleeve for electronics. You can put your Kindle in there, anything like that. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and stitch that all the way around the outside, and I will be done with this one. If you do want to divide it, you would just do the exact same thing, you know, that we just did on the other piece, and then you'll have your divided pocket. You could also do cargo pockets, and that would be where you cut it longer, and then you do the kind of fold in the middle. So you would sew here and then fold it over an inch and sew, and yeah. All right, so there's that one. This would also be a really good place to put like a logo, if you had one that you wanted to put on the inside, or another tag if you wanted to put a tag here, a woven one. Be good. All right, so that piece is done. Now we're going to work on, well, I already did this part. If you weren't here in the beginning, I did already put the magnet on here. It's just like we did day one. So, and the pattern piece tells you exactly where to put that. So just use your pattern piece, mark the hole, and then put that. Put that to the side. All right, so now we are moving on to the what I call a zipper placket. I think it's called a recessed zipper panel in the pattern. This is just going to be your top zipper that closes on your bag. So I did already put the double-sided tape on here. The directions will tell you to mark a 3/8 inch line, put some double-sided tape, fold it over to meet that 3/8 inch line. And you want to do that on all 4 of your pieces, your 2 exterior pieces and your 2 lining pieces. And that's because we need to have a finished edge. And so we're just going to fold that over a little bit so that we get a nice clean edge. There is another way of doing this type of zipper placket where you cut, basically you would cut this all as one piece and then fold it in half. But this is the way we're doing it in this pattern, and I like it this way too. So it allows you also to use 2 separate colors. If you do it the other way, they have to both be the same because you're basically making a sandwich out of it and just folding it over. Okay, what did I do with my zipper? I know it's here. Here it goes. It got buried. Almost fell off. All right, so I'm gonna look at my ends and see which one I like better. So this is how I do the, and forgive me, but I do not know the name of who created this or what it's called. But it's where you take your zipper and make a 90-degree angle, basically. So Come on, lighter. Now, this is how I do it. If you have sensitive fingers, you probably will not want to do it this way. This is just the way that works best for me. But if you're going to do it this way, be careful. That's my little PSA. So all I'm doing is I am taking this point here and I'm folding it down, and I'm kind of leaving my nail in there. I'm just folding it down, and then I'm going to clip that, and I'm going to get this hot and basically melt it together. If you are uncomfortable doing that, you can clip it together like this and just run it right under the sewing machine, and just do like an 1/8 inch stitch to the side. I just find it easier to do it this way, and I'm comfortable with using my lighter in that way. But if you are not, please be careful and do it with the stitching. I just get it nice and melty and then close it. And remove that. And you can see it just melted that together and it's holding in place. Now that's not permanent. I mean, if I sat here, I could pull it right off, but it'll hold until I get my seam done. So again, I'll just show that. This side is a little harder because it's the opposite. But just kind of bend it so that it's kind of creating that little fold. And then release it and hold it with your thumb, and then clamp that little corner down right there. You can use a pen or one of these clips. And then I just kind of separate it a little bit so they can melt it. Get it nice and melty, and then close it up. You can also use your lighter to kind of press against that if you're worried about burning your finger. At first, when I did, I kind of caught the edge of the zipper teeth a little bit, and my finger is smarting a little bit, but we okay. And you can see that melted that part, but it didn't melt that part down very well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to grab it up top here and then get that little tail a little melty and close it. Might have waited too long on that one. It's easier to do when you're not on live. There we go. All right. And now you have a very nicely finished zipper that will taper off and give you a nice finished edge. Give me just one second. I'm going to get a drink real quick. Ooh. I am sorry about that. I have to check my Disney cup and make sure that it didn't break. If you guys want to see it. My best friend and I went to Disney for our birthdays, and we collect Starbucks cups, so we had to get a Disneyland Starbucks cup. And then I go and try to break it. All right, so my zipper is nice and super long. You can always trim it down if you don't want a super long tail. But as I mentioned before, isn't it pretty? I love it so much. But as I mentioned before, I made mine too short the first time I made this bag. And so now I'm erring on the side and doing a super long one. So, and honestly, you don't even, at this point, you don't even have to put your zipper pull because we're not capping this edge off yet. So I don't put it on yet. And sometimes that comes around to bite me in the butt, but hopefully not today. Okay. All right, I'm sorry, I'm just reading to make sure that I'm putting it the correct way. You want your folded edge to, your clean edge that you folded here, you want that towards the long end of your zipper, and you want your raw edge towards the top. Am I reading that correctly? I believe so. Okay. I'm going to start with my, yes, okay. All right, I'm going to start with my exterior piece, the vinyl. And you want it to be right side up. And I'm going to leave those clips on there because that just helps hold that down. Just because this tape is pretty strong, but this vinyl is actually a marine vinyl, so it's a really kind of thick, and it won't stay stuck down. So, all right, so have that up. And then we are going to turn this upside down. And that is where it's a little bit more helpful if you have your zipper pull on, because you know it's upside down, but it's just the opposite side without the teeth. All right, so you're going to come down like a ½ inch. And you don't want to go all the way to the, you don't want to take your zipper all the way to the edge, because we're actually going to stitch here. So come down ½ inch. Yeah, ½ inch. And then we're going to clip it on. Normally, I like to put both pieces on at once and sew this down, but with this zipper placket, I'm actually going to go ahead and take the time to baste this side on and then put my lining side on, just to make sure we're not getting anything out of whack. I'm gonna have to move that out of the way or I'm gonna sew over it. So, and you don't want to go past the edge of your vinyl here. You don't want to go past that. And actually, I'm going to sew from this side. No, I'm not. I'm going to sew from this side. I changed my mind. What I'm going to do is take my chalk and just mark right where that is, just so I have a visual reference on this side of where the end of my placket is. Because the reason you don't want to do that is when you turn this so that it's the right way, you don't want to see any excess stitches. So if you do it this way, you won't have any excess on the outside. All right, and again, I'm just basting this one because we're going to be sewing the lining on in a minute. And don't stretch your zipper at all. Try to keep it nice and loose, but wind up. All right, and when I get to the end, I like to take my hat, and I like to just kind of hold that in place as I sew, especially once you get to kind of the thicker area, and then go over. And I like the back stitch right here, just to make sure that I have that well tacked in. I don't know why I did that. I've been using my serger, so I'm in the habit of just creating a long tail. So you can see that's going to create a really, really nice little zipper pocket. And now we're going to put, I'm going to go ahead and do both sides at once, or do the entirety of one side. So it's really important, like it doesn't matter so much that this part down here lines up perfectly, but you really want to get this end with your folded edges. You really want that part to line up well. So take your time really kind of attaching that. I'm going to use one of these clips to really hold that in place. And I'm actually going to come over here and clip it on this side as well, just so it doesn't shift while I'm doing this. Move it this way. Oh no, those dang bobbins. And if you wanted to, you could do double-sided tape and tape both of these pieces on and just sew once. That's another option. So again, you want to stop right at where your folded piece ends so that you don't go past onto the zipper tape. And I did move in a little bit. I'm right up next to that zipper now. And mine will be a little bit wider because I am not taking the full 3/8 inch seam. I'm just doing, this is about 1/4 because that's what my foot is and I don't like changing it. So I just usually adjust my final piece to include only 1/4 inch seam allowance on zippers instead of the full 3/8 that most call for. All right, so now I stopped right about 3/8. Yeah, I think it's just easier because that way you don't have to change it. Okay, so now, oh yeah, it does say on there too. Let me see. Yep, I'm just right there at about 1/4 inch. So now we're going to sew across the top here. And that's why we didn't want to take your zipper all the way to the top. That's why we came down about 1/2 inch. So I'm going to turn and do a little bit of the back stitch right there, just because that's going to be a big stress point for you to turn it. You want to have a nice corner. And no one reminded me to change my stitch length, so I've just done all of that on a 6. But I'm not going to go back and redo it. So we're going to top stitch again anyway, so it is what it is. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and trim this corner. Make sure you're not hitting any of your stitches. I accidentally went past where I should have, and so I'm just going to have to go around that little bit because you do not want to trim any of your stitches and make them fall out. And I'm not going to trim that little bit of zipper. I'm leaving that in there because I don't want it to unravel. So All right, so now I'm just going to poke this through. And I like to use my hemostat sometimes if I have a really tight corner like this one. And what I'm doing is I'm grabbing right here where the zipper is, and I'm going to lock my hemostat. And then I'm going to push it back through. And I'm using the bulk of that fabric so that the edge of my hemostat doesn't ever come in contact with the seam. It's just pushing on that excess fabric in the seam allowance. So, because you easily poke all the way through your fabric if you don't have like a buffer there. That's what I use it as, a buffer. So you can see that gave a pretty nice corner. And we have 1/2 of our zipper panel done. And so now we would just need to top stitch. I'm actually going to do the other side first, because in order to top stitch this, something I had a little bit of trouble with when I did my first one, the tension can sometimes get a little wonky because it's very thick right there. So I'm just going to kind of put this together and work on the other side first. That way I can dial in my tension and do it all at once. Okay. Stop that. The zipper is being ornery. All right, so what I like to do for this part is just line up again your folded. So in order to make that as smooth as possible. All right, so I'm just lining it, the zipper against the edge of that piece, and then lining the tops there. I hope that makes sense. This is why I don't write patterns, I just flow them. And that's actually just a little bit long. So I'm gonna undo that just the tiniest bit and fold it down a little bit more. You could also bring this up just a little bit, like refold it a little bit if it's not lining up correctly. Ooh, flying clips. Okay. So that piece here, the other side of your exterior, this is my vinyl. It's face up, your zipper is face down, and we're gonna go ahead and baste that on. And I forgot to mark where my end of my thing is. So I think I stopped a little short, but it'll be okay. Since this is just the basting, should be lined up okay enough. All right, and if that is in your way, you can also just separate this. Throw a clip down here on the bottom so it doesn't completely separate. But you can just move that out of the way. Now we're going to put this one on. Again, make sure it's nice and lined up. Down here at the bottom first. And clip that in place. All right, change your stitch length to a construction stitch. And actually start going this way first. And stop just before you get to the edge. If you wanted to get just a little closer. All right, trim that corner. It's just going to help you get a much nicer point. And then and like I did last time, I'm going to grab right along the zipper here and push that through. And that's firmly clamped on there. Just it's a little bit harder with such a firm marine vinyl, but you can do it. Just really be careful with whatever you're using to poke this corner out so that you don't go through your seam. If you're using something that can be ironed easily, I highly recommend ironing it at this point. It'll help you get a much nicer kind of seam here. But if you don't, then you just do it like this. Just kind of tug on your zipper a bit to kind of straighten that out. All right. Drop my other one. Oh, well, I'll find it later. All right, so you can see what it will look like when we have our placket all ready to go. Now we just need to top stitch, and like I said, the tension can be kind of an issue at this point because you have a lot of layers there. So I'm really going to tighten up my tension, and I'm going to check after I do a little bit to make sure. It's mainly along this line here that it's super thick, and along this little bottom here where you have the foldovers. So that's the main area where it's kind of a little tougher. But I'm gonna start here. So start on one of your edges, your raw edges. And that is going to go into a seam, so you don't really need to worry about it being pretty. So just start there. All right, so I'm just going to kind of give a little peek and see. Okay, that's good so far. Just along the zipper tape, and then give it another check. Make sure your foot is down, and we have a little bit of a pull right here in the corner, but other than that, it's pretty good. I'm just going to check again. Yeah, looking okay. All right. It's the corners really that are the worst. All right, so here I'm actually going to increase my tension again because it's a pretty thick area here, and I want to make sure that I'm getting all the way in there. And I am hand cranking here just because sometimes this machine will have a tendency to catch on a bulkier part as you're walking it down, and it can rip up your vinyl. So I'd like to hand crank kind of at that corner there because it is a lot of bulk. And that'd be perfect. Awesome. Now, because I'm going to finish top stitching just to base that in place, I'm going to kind of lower this tension back. And just make sure that I'm catching that. But again, if you have a little bit of a loop on this one because your tension is too high, on the top, it's really going to matter on this part because that's going into a seam anyways. And there you go. You can see that's my one little loop area, and I might just take a pick and kind of pull that up to tighten it up, and should be fine. I always like to start on this edge just to make sure I'm hiding my start and stop. And it holds it together better too while you're doing the top stitching on the main zipper part. All right. Just gonna check. Yep, it looks good. That was so much easier than the last time I did it. Literally, it's just all about trial and error and practice. A little bit further. All right, this part is done. I'm just going to burn my thread ends real quick just to mainly get them out of the way. And you can see, like I was saying, my tension is actually too loose here, or too tight on the bottom, and so that's what's creating like these loops. But this piece is going into the seam, so I don't care. This is just to help us during construction to have it sewn together. All right, so at this point, I'm actually going to put my zipper pull on just to check and see if we are good. There we go. And there is our awesome looking zipper placket. I have some strings here that I'm going to get rid of. Be careful when you're doing that. You're burning close to a piece of your vinyl that is going to be exposed in the end because you can melt your vinyl. So just be a little bit careful there. That zipper gave me a little bit of a burn. I guess I gave myself the burn. I'm going to get this out of the way. All right, so in the very end, we will put the end cap on here, but I'm actually going to not do that just yet so that I can see how long I want to make it. If I want to leave it all of this on, or if I want to trim it in half and just leave that much. So I leave it for the end. Okay, now again, zipper pinhole, or this is what we're calling the zipper gusset. Yes, zipper gusset. And I already have my magnets on. So now we can do our assembly. Put my pieces. I am going to kind of fold this together and give it a clip right here, just for now, to keep the edges of it up and out of my way. Oh, you probably couldn't see that, but I just folded my pocket to kind of keep it out of the way. Now, we're going to take our piece E, and this is the one with the zipper overlay on it, obviously. Set that to the side. And we're going to take our new little zipper that we created, a recess zipper. Okay, so I'm going to fold it in half and just find my center points to make it easier. Because this piece will not be the same size as the top of this piece. It's meant to be shorter. So I just did tiny little notches. All right, and here is where you need to decide which side of the bag you want this zippered piece in. It really doesn't matter. It's just kind of up to you, whatever is easiest for your customer or whatever you think that they would like more. But whichever side, if you want it to go in your bag, hold on, let me get the actual bag so I can explain this better. Okay, so when you're wearing the bag, you're holding the bag, this is the front and that faces out towards the world, right? And this is the part that's going to go towards your back or towards you. So if you want this piece to be, when you open your bag, to be there, and you want your zipper to open up this way, you're going to put these sides together. Does that make sense? I hope it does. And if you want your zipper to open the opposite way, you would put it this way. So it's basically just kind of however you want your bag to open. All right, so you're going to have this piece face up. You're going to have the exterior of your zipper placket facing up as well. And I just lined up my, I feel like I cut this a little long. I just lined up my center points. And I'm going to stitch that down. Actually, I'm going to baste this because I still have to put this piece on top. So just baste this on and make sure you change your tension back and your stitch length to a base stitch. Y'all, why didn't anyone tell me I ran out of bobbin? Y'all are slacking. And I heard the sound change too. I just didn't pay attention to it. In my brain, it was like, man, that's a funny sound. I love machine magnets. They really do come in handy. All right, back at it. Okay, so now I'm just going to take one of your pieces. It doesn't matter which one. And I'm going to, let me mark the center, actually. I'm just going to press it to kind of fold it and make that center mark. And put that against there. And now this piece should go all the way across the top. And you could definitely just sew this together all at once. If you wanted to, just pin it all together and then sew across only once if that's easier on you. But I'm trying to do it kind of the long way in case anyone really wants to know how to do it that way. Change your stitch length. Yeah, I just mentioned that I think I cut it the wrong length. Yeah, so follow your pattern pieces on that. I tend to cut my pattern pieces out while I'm watching like YouTube videos or whatever. And with straight pieces, I usually just use my ruler while I'm doing it instead of the pattern piece. And sometimes that gets me in a little bit of trouble because I'll do something like that, make it the wrong length. But we're just going with it because that's part of sewing. Now, here's where you have to decide whether you want to have a perky zipper that sits up like this, or you want kind of a depressed zipper that sits down more. And I think last time I did it perky, so this time I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to change back to a top stitch length. So if you wanted to do a perky style zipper, you would have, I'll show you on the next one, you fold it up instead of down, and then you would top stitch on your lining piece instead of this blue piece that I'm doing here. And it's funny because the first time I made it way too short because I printed the pattern pieces wrong. And so I made it like really short, and now this one's long. Okay, so like I was saying, if you wanted, this is going to make the zipper kind of go down like this. If you wanted it to go up, you would have folded it up this way and then top stitched along here. And that would just kind of give you a perky zipper like that. All right, now we're going to do the same thing on this side. Mark my centers. All right, so this time I'm gonna just do one stitch to kind of speed this along a little bit. So whenever I pin things together to do multiple pieces at once, I will clip it, the first piece on like so, line up the second piece in the center, and then I like to take a clip, put it to the side, and then start moving these to the front. And then that way I don't have to do two separate stitches, I just have to do the one. So do that down to 3.5. A little wonky at the end there, but it'll be all right. And top stitch. All right, so there we go, that lines up. I'm going to kind of tuck this tail up and under there, just kind of get it out of the way. And now we can do the base. We're just gonna do the base and the side pieces just like we did yesterday with the exterior. I'm going to start on this one. Actually, wait. No, I want to start on the other one because you want to leave an opening along the side that has your zipper in it so that you can turn through that. So start on your single pocket side. Put these right sides together. And you're going to sew this part with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And that's going to help you not have like a baggy lining. So that's approximately. Change your stitch length. All right, so this one you just sew straight across. And before you move on, just click here, making sure that you do not catch your stitches. It's pretty thick right there, so it's definitely a good idea to trim them, just so you don't have as much in your final project when you're trying to make those corners nice. All right, so now we're going to bring the side with your zipper over to meet this edge of your base. And what I'm going to do is mark here. And since this is the inside, it doesn't matter what kind of marker you use or anything like that. But I am going to come in about 2 inches. You can measure it if you want to. Just come in 2 inches, make a mark. And 2 inches on this one, make a mark. And then anything past this mark here, you're going to leave that open. Do not sew in between here. So just mark little X's, whatever it takes to remind you not to sew past these lines here. And that is just going to make it so much easier to turn your bag, because we're going to leave this open and we're going to turn our bag through this hole. And then we're going to pull this up through this pocket and then sew that lining up and then sew your pocket up. Because if you tried to turn this entire bag through this little pocket, you would have such a tough time. So this is just going to make it so much easier, especially depending on what kind of I'm going to do this. What kind of material you've used. Like if you use this thick vinyl like I have for the base and everything, the marine vinyl, it would be tough. So make sure you back stitch well at this edge here. And it doesn't have to be a perfect 2 inches, it's just to get it enough space to get your bag through. Back stitch, and then turn it 90 degrees and go down. That's going to help you get a really nice corner. when you're trying to sew that up later inside your bag, which is admittedly a bit awkward to, like, that whole part is just a bit awkward, but all right. And just trim this thread here. You don't want to leave that or it'll get in the way when you're trying to trim. All right, so I'm actually going to separate this now, and I'm going to pull the zipper pull all the way off just because it's easier for me. Oops. And so you can see we have our big hole that we're going to leave open in order to turn. Now we're going to put the sides on, and then we'll be done for today. I'm not going to go too far past 4 o'clock. I was a little worried. Oh, and trim your corners before moving on. Just to reduce just that little bit of bulk. And of course, I forgot to mark center, so mark center on these real quick. You would think for a live, I would be a little more prepared, but this is how I sew on a daily, so might as well be real. All right, just take one of your side panels, mark center once again. While I'm doing that, I'm going to do this one too. All right, now both sides together. So once again, like I mentioned yesterday, when you're doing this kind of, and you could also top stitch this down if you wanted to, but I didn't. I don't think you really need to. But if it makes you happy to do that, you could do that. But as I mentioned yesterday, kind of hold it in the shape that it's going to go, and that will help you get a better corner. What is he doing? Silly dog. Make sure you're getting that pocket out of the way. Make sure you have your zipper ends out of the way. Change to a combining stitch length. And I'm going to loosen up my tension because this is just 2 layers of waterproof canvas for the most part until we get down to that slip pocket. All right, so when you start up here, you want to have your presser foot or your stitch, your seam allowance at 1/4 of an inch. But as you get maybe like an inch or so down, you want to start kind of increasing it, 1.5 inches down. You want to start increasing it to a 3/8 inch. All right, Linda, have a good dinner. Yeah, so you want to make sure you increase it to a 3/8 inch. And again, that's just going to shrink your lining a little bit so that it fits nicer inside your shell. Otherwise, it would be a little loose. So. Oops, you know what? I didn't back stitch. So I'm just kind of starting to increase to that 3/8 inch. This isn't as bad as the exterior because generally your lining is a bit softer, not so thick. So it's a little easier to maneuver your pieces around. And it's the lining. If you get a pucker in your lining, don't worry about it. Just move on. Looks good. All right, so when I get up to this clip here, I'm going to start going back to my 1/4 inch. Oh, and I just removed it. That wasn't very smart, was it? So I'm going to start heading back to my 1/4 inch seam allowance. And it's important to do that. Otherwise, if you did the whole thing at 3/8 of an inch, it would not match correctly with your outside shell. It would just be a little too snug to fit. Your outer shell would be too big. All right, so just kind of come in here and make sure that you got all of your corners. Everything looks good. You didn't miss anything. And I am going to take some pinking shears and just go around that bottom curve right here. And I'm just doing this off camera because I'm going to do it over my trash can. So bear with me. I will be right back. And you can see I just did the bottom kind of half of it. Now one more piece. I'm putting up the trash cans. Also, sorry if you can hear any kids hollering in the background. I'm guessing they just got home from school and they're out playing in our little alleyway. So we live at the end of kind of like a cul-de-sac almost. So our street is usually full of kids. Doesn't bother me though. At least they're safe. Okay. I worry because I sew right beside my front door because it's the only place I could fit my industrial. So I'm always worried you can hear all the sounds from outside. All right. All right, so once again, start at 1/4 inch. I'm just repeating that just for anyone like me who forgets. Start at 1/4 inch and then widen out after about 1.5 inches to a 3/8. Make sure all of your pockets and everything are up out of the way, and your tails of your zipper tape are out of the way as well. make sure you go back up to your 1/4 inch. Check that you caught everything and you don't have any holes. See, I did get a little bit of a pucker right there, but I'm not going to worry about it, because when you look down into your bag, you're not going to see that pucker. It's going to be just fine. So let me just trim with my pinking shears. All right, so I'm going to take these clips off here. I'm going to flip it right side out just so I can see what the inside would look like. Make sure that I got everything. I know this is not how the bag will look, but I like to kind of poke that seam just to make sure, and it's easier for me to do it with it this way. So just like to, just around those corners, I really like to make sure that it's nice and secure. And it is. All right. So I'm going to flip it back. And you can also, I believe in the instructions, yeah. So around, if you wanted to continue to trim this down to about like 1/8 of an inch all the way around, you can use your pinking shears just to reduce some of the bulk in that area. I'm just going to go ahead and leave mine. But that is your interior of your bag. You can see we have a nice big pocket here that you could put like your tablet or your e-reader, something like that, a book. And then you have these pockets over here that are great for any kind of accessories that you need, or your phone. And you do have this hole, which is how we're going to turn the bag. And you have your plackets that are dipping down. If you stitched yours underneath, yours will be sticking up like that. I personally kind of thought that that got in the way a little bit for whenever you wanted to use your magnet to close it. So that's why I did it down this time. So there we go. That's all ready to go. And tomorrow we can finish this bag. And I know that that's probably one of the most daunting parts of this whole thing, is doing the top stitching on the finished product, but we can do it. And that's why I wanted to get all of this done today, so that we can just do the assembly and the tops tomorrow. And the handles, we'll have to rivet those on. But other than that, we are almost at the finish line. So if you got questions, once again, just send me a message or leave it here on this video or in the group. Sure, I'll post the link for the, and you post your interiors so we can all see them. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.